Esper, the control deck of choice this weekend. We look at our day 2 metagame breakdown here in Standard. Now remember, the only 4 rounds were played, so the data's a little muddy here. But we have 20 players on Esper control and only 7 on blue-white control. If you add in blue-white approach, we get 10. But either way, it's 2-1 players deciding to play black over white in control.
I was really impressed at the Pro Tour. Kevin Jones made a deep run, ultimately missed on the top 8, but he had a good blue-black configuration. It looked really good in the heads-up control mirrors, and we're kind of seeing that bear out.
Well, and what I've always said with the blue-black control decks, it's better in the mirror, it's better against red, and I think it's worse against everything else, which I think a month ago, that's not a thing I'd want to do. There's a lot of other decks.
But there's just not much else.
Yeah, this weekend, if you tell me that, I'm in.
Yeah.
No plays until turn 3 here. First one is going to be History of Benalia from Raja Sulaiman. He was on a 6-card hand here.
See if we can get a disallow.
Yeah.
Maybe a Supreme Will.
Black-white. So black-blue control is a tougher deck here. It doesn't actually answer cards as cleanly as white does. And then I say that Michael has one of those Forsake the Worldlies. I think his only main deck copy.
Yep, one.
Yep.
That's typically what you see, exactly one.
Nice time to have it.
Definitely. It generally is live against everything. Mopiest against the red deck, but I've hit some Bomat Couriers.
It's strange because it's off your splash color.
Right.
Right?
It cycles, you know? How bad could it be?
Exactly. Swinging for 2, and Raja will add Knight of Malice to the board. In these matchups, you want to look at how many dead cards Control is creating. And I think it's a fair number right now. We see Fatal Push in Raja's hand. Ravenous Chupacabra as well. Mm-hmm. These aren't going to play at all. We see Fatal Push and make that Essence Extraction from Michael Hamilton.
That's Scattered. I was looking at 1 in the main deck for the Extraction.
Yeah. And here's Scarab God for Hamilton. Clean enough. You can Chupacabra it for a turn if that land enters the battlefield untapped. He's got Angel of Sanctions. That's a ways away. Mm-hmm. Fatal Push doesn't work. Ooh, there's a 4th land, but it is tapped.
Yeah, with no land types in here. Any non-basic here, I believe, enters the battlefield tapped. The 2-color lands. Ether Hub, I guess, is the one that would work.
No, it was Isolated Chapel, but look, there's no basics.
Concealed Courtyard does not pass the test.
Forsaken Sanctuary. So, and I like Raja immediately going to go to work with Scarab God. The only creature in the graveyard was Knight of Malice.
Yeah, so Hamilton tries to grab that, gets a cast down on it. That makes sense in response to the trigger.
Scarab God hits in for 5. Raja will get to Chupacabra the Scarab God. One thing you know, Scarab God doesn't stay down particularly well.
No. No quitting the Scarab God.
Karn. I believe Aether Sphere Harvester the draw for Raja. It's a 1 of in the main. Not really the matchup for that card.
Nope. Probably relatively excited to get that one out of the deck.
Karn will be the play from Raja. He's going to have to make a blocker for Scarab God, otherwise he'll lose the Karn. No, actually, it goes to 6.
Yeah,
I'll correct myself.
Karn's very loyal.
Gideon, or believe we have a Knight of Malice as the other card.
That's what it looks like. It's got power and toughness.
Michael Hamilton's hand is a Negate, a Vraska's Contempt, and a Torrential Gearhulk.
And on the previous turn, he did miss a land drop, so all spells there. Once that Gearhulk's online, it's going to be very powerful.
Aether Meltdown the draw. 2 copies in the main. You see, this Esper deck of Hamilton, it is gunning so hard for red. First of all, you're playing blue-black. You want the extra points against red. Main deck Essence Extraction. 2 main deck Aether Meltdown. He is not messing around.
And it's true that he's gunning for red, but he also just lines up really well against decks with creatures.
Yeah.
This stuff is all pretty clean answers.
It looks like the strategy. I'm looking at this, Ryan. Only 3 disallows, not even the full playset. He is kicking the control mirror can into the sideboard and just going all out on aggro decks.
Yep.
Like, disallow's the best card in the mirror, and he's not playing a full set. That's going to hurt him. Only 1 search for Escanta?
Yeah, well, if you look at the top 2 decks in day 2 from Standard, 31 mono red aggro, 24 red-black aggro.
Yeah, I mean, this decision to skew his deck toward aggro, I think he made the right call.
Definitely.
Another plus from Karn. Raja will get that land. He's going to be able to use it, land 5. Might go with Contempt, Meltdown, Gearhulk, Negate. Here's Chupacabra from Raja.
And the gate does not line up against that one. Fortunately for Hamilton, the Scarab God does.
The risk as you start going toward all these cheap interactive cards, your Aether Meltdowns, your Essence Extractions, this black-white mid-range deck, I'm not sure that that's a good thing. You know, like cutting Disallows, cutting Search for Azcantas. The reason you cut Searches is because against red, Search for Azcanta doesn't matter. If you survive long enough for that card to transform, you don't actually need to tap it. You've already won. This is a matchup where he actually needs that Disallow. He needs that Search for Azcanta. Maybe needs a little strong, but he'd like to have them.
Yeah, you'd also like to be heavier on Glimmers. Only 2 Glimmers in the deck. Actually pulling ahead on cards can be pretty significant.
Yeah. So what happens is Raja might be able to pull ahead from here. We did see end step Vraska's Contempt taking care of Karn. So that Gideon's going to hang out with a silver counter on it. Michael, instead of recasting Scarab God, held up Negate here. And then Raja draws Karn. He might be playing straight into that.
And it makes sense. There's still nothing that the Scarab God can really leverage. It's just a 5/5. One more land, and Hamilton will finally be able to unlock that Torrential Gearhulk, and he can really start to pull ahead. Then it's a little bit easier to commit the Scarab God.
Yeah, Michael's getting punished on this card draw. As we see Aethersphere Harvester as the play. Two Glimmer of Genius, 0 Hieroglyphic Illumination, only 1 Search for Azcanta. He is liable to miss some land drops, given how he's built his main deck.
Yep.
Michael will negate the Harvester. Feels like that was the bait spell. Here's Knight of Malice from Raja. And Supreme Will from Hamilton. I felt a bit surprised to see that, given that he had Aether Meltdown in hand.
Yeah, I'm not confident that either of those cards was really worth the counter spell.
Yeah.
I would like to save the negate to maybe protect Torrential or a Scarab God from a Vraska's Contempt. That's kind of the card I'm looking for here, or another Karn would certainly be excellent to negate.
That 1-for-1 trade, you're not sure which player ended up ahead on it.
Right.
Yeah. Here's Karn from Raja. Now, Michael did it land 6, so Gearhulk on negate's going to play.
That was very good.
Yeah, I mean, if Michael had missed, say, the land drop there, then I don't know how this plays.
Yeah, he'd probably be in a bit of trouble.
But Michael knows follow-up from Raja. Michael will get to untap his lands. And then remember, that Scarab God's still hanging out in his hand. I think that should be good enough for the Esper Mage.
Right.
Here's a swing for 5. Especially with Scarab God, Raja cannot use a removal spell on Torrential Gearhulk. You can't put that in the graveyard.
No, you're looking at kind of Contempt or Bust as answers to these things.
Yeah. And here's Scarab God. Michael leaving up that Aether Meltdown.
I suppose this is a build that we have Ixalan's Bindings. That would be a good one to find.
Right. Enchantments, Esper doesn't have a way to get they have the 1 Forsake. Raja has Angel of Sanctions in hand, and a Fatal Push draws a land. Can he get through all this?
The Angel of Sanctions is in this weird space where it's almost good. You really don't want that card to die.
Yeah, I think you got to hit Scarab God here, and then hope it never dies.
Yep.
Just never. He'll do that. It's got to control the board again, kind of.
Yeah.
Really, just a little bit. Nothing more.
These life totals don't look great for Raja here.
He's got an Ifnir Deadlands, and he can shrink down the Gearhulk. And I don't know. Here's Essence Scatter drawn from Hamilton.
It ain't pretty, but I suppose it plays.
Raja down to 5 on the hit.
Put the Gearhulk down to a 3 means the Angel can jump in front of it and they can bounce.
Aether Meltdown the Angel, and then it's...
Yeah, it's still just bouncing.
Yep, no.
Doesn't remove any toughness.
Until Michael draws... Well, that's the thing. I was going to say until Michael draws, a Teferi, but Michael doesn't have that many huge draws.
The ones he has are very good, though.
Yeah, they'll win. What are we looking at? A Teferi wins. A Vraska's Contempt is gonna win. Because he can Contempt and immediately activate the Scarab God.
And he has a Contempt already in the graveyard, so another Torrential Gearhulk would win.
All right. Commit. Yeah, that's good.
There's some pretty good ones.
Search for Azcanta's good. Supreme Will probably finds one of these good cards. All right. Aether Meltdown on the Angel. 2 energy for Michael.
Yeah, Raja made an attack there. So
he's got some Deadlands, right?
Gotta have some kind of plan for that Gearhulk.
Field of Ruin on Ifnir Deadlands. Now, Ryan, Raja's dead on the swing back.
I would minimally he has to be able to activate the Deadlands. He must have some
No,
kind
it
of
just
card.
got Field of Ruined.
That's a sorcery speed action. You can't.
He's got
respond.
a creature, but Michael's got an Essence Scatter. This is the dorkiest way to lose. Is Michael just going to Essence Scatter and hit him with a Gear Hog? Yeah, he is. That's gone. He's at 5.
Yeah, this should.
Wait.
Close
Okay. Michael drew Teferi this turn. Raja's going to pick up third. Okay,
yeah.
right. So Raja, I think, gave Michael a bit of a gift there.
Yeah, from 5, the play you would like to have seen, just as soon as you have priority, Deadlands the Gear Hulk, leave back the Angels so they can bounce off each other.
So he might be thinking to himself that he let a little bit of value go there, and he did. Now, when he comes back to watch the tape, he'll see, well, Michael top decks Teferi, none of this mattered, you were dead.
Yeah.
And that's 100% true.
That was not beatable.
So all is well. Michael Hamilton up 1-0 as these players played for a berth in the top 8 of the Invitational. We're going to go to sideboards so things get tougher for the Control Mage in just a minute. Welcome back here. Raja Sulaiman loses game 1 there. Mull to 6 on the draw. Made a bit of a show of it. But black-white mid-range. Ryan, I've said it with control. There's 2 things that are good against control right now, and most decks do one of them. The first thing is mono-red. The second thing is sideboarding 4 duresses.
Yeah.
And looking down our list here, mono-red aggro's first. Then we have red-black, Esper, black-blue mid-range. Blue-white, the deck I'm talking about. Then red-green, red-black mid-range. Mono-green that sideboards black duresses. There's a trend.
Yes. Yeah, duress, really powerful in standard right now.
Yeah. So I'm going to go on a range, say that Raja will board in 4 duresses in this matchup.
I believe you.
Okay.
That would not surprise me.
What else do you like here?
The 4th glint sleeve siphoner, that makes a good amount of sense. Leybear the Heart, pretty similar to duress, kind of a 5th copy there. Treasure Map's pretty reasonable in these matchups. Can draw extra cards, generates a mana advantage. Arguel's Bloodfast.
Insane.
Yeah, it's absurd. Landing that early, drawing some extra cards, can pull very far ahead. Because it's an Esper, Sorcerer's Spyglass actually pretty good. Turn off Teferi. It's kind of like more duresses again.
Doomfall is another duress as well.
Yep. Planeswalkers are pretty good, so Liliana Death Strategy can't be that bad.
Yeah, what's difficult, so Raja is going to turn into this deck. He's going to go completely mid-range. I would expect some of these Knights to go away, these Chupacabras go away. It's going to be all duresses and things that don't die to removal. So when you look at Michael Hamilton's sideboard, it's hard to say what you like here. Glintsleeve Siphoner is a bit of a bait and switch game. You could put them in and hope to draw extra cards, but that's not really where you are in the matchup. Cast Down is great against red, but I'm not sure it's good against Raja's deck.
Yeah, though Raja is pretty spell-heavy with going to the sideboard games. Hamilton has 3 of his own Duresses and a Negate. That stuff all seems to play here pretty well. Got that second search for his Kanta. That's pretty solid.
It's always hard when you're the control deck, and you both... So, Negates... Duresses are great against control. And then, like, the thought would be when the mid-range deck starts duressing you, maybe you should duress them back. And it's sometimes reasonable, but it's never as good as what they're doing.
Yeah, there's matchups like this where they have Duresses that are very good, and I have Duresses, and my idea is I hope I can get their Duress with my Duress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, Raja will do things like duress Michael, like, take the Forsake the Worldly, and then turn 2 make a Bloodfast, and say, hey, I got your answer, then I played the card. Yep. When you're on the Esper side, you duress them. You take... I don't know, maybe their History Benalia. That would be a really nice hit. And then you just say go for a while. It's just not that different than a counterspell, and sometimes it misses.
Yeah.
He still might board them in. The card I'm most excited about in his sideboard is the extra search for Azcanta.
Yep. Not a ton of ways to answer that one. It generates card advantage, generates mana advantage. A lot to like about it in the slower matchups.
Yeah, we're in a spot where Michael could, in theory, lose on turn 10. Search for Azcanta will help fix that.
Yes.
No Field of Ruin in Raja's deck either. Starts on Isolated Chapel.
Yeah, these duress matchups is where the shortage of Glimmer of Geniuses is going to hurt Hamilton.
Really bad, yeah. Mentioned this is Lay Bare the Heart from Raja Sulaiman.
The 5th Duress.
Yeah, I was a little surprised there's not a couple extra Glimmers because Michael's a Gear Hulk deck. But at the same time, you just don't have time for those cards against red decks.
Yeah.
And we'll take a look. We see Cast Down, the Scarab God, Vraska's Contempt, looks like Supreme Will, and then 3 lands.
I assume that Raja's sideboard configuration is pretty strong against Cast Down. So I'll be looking at one of the other cards. Contempt's also kind of medium. Probably, you can't take the Scarab God, which is really unfortunate. That's the card that you're really kind of lean to. It might be Supreme Will here.
Yeah, and it looks like that's where he'll go. Actually, correct. That's a Syncopate.
Sure.
Apologies.
Same difference. I mean, it takes the counterspell out of that hand.
Yep. And I mean, I think what you on Michael's and Raj's side, what you need to do is look at what cards you have in your hand. If you had something that gets cleanly hit by Vraska's Contempt, like actually if you had a Glintsleeve Siphoner in your hand, you might take the Cast Down.
Sure.
You know, because next turn you could go Hub Siphoner, player on Syncopate, go. Looks like, I think Raja's hand is just all Duresses. So, this is going to be a big trade. The question for me is going to be whether or not Raja can answer the Scarab God. I think his hand is just 2 more Duresses.
Yeah, it's like...
It's all Duress.
The first Duress is good. The second Duress is usually pretty good. But you need something that's a payoff on top of the Duresses. You need to clear the way. The thing about it is the game goes longer. Hamilton has better payoffs.
Yeah, you can't dress their whole hand, then Hamilton will just make a Scarab God.
Yeah.
You'll lose. Michael did not negate the duress there. My thought is that he's interested in cycling one of these lands. Now we duress again. There's a Contempt and a Cast Down. I think we're just going to get every card out of Michael's hand.
I think that the Negate was just the best duressable card in the hand.
Oh, it was.
And maybe Raja takes something different.
Yeah, a lot of times you negate to deny information. Doesn't really matter.
Well, yeah, Raja had already seen the rest of the hand. The Negate was the only unknown.
He didn't know about... Oh, it wasn't a gate. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Whatever.
Yep.
Yep. And Michael draws Teferi. Of course, after you duress someone 3 times, they're going to draw Teferi.
That's the best time to do it. That's impeccable timing.
Hey, Lay Bare the Heart can't take Teferi anymore.
That's true.
It's changed. Doomfall from Raja. Now I'm going to say, hey, when does Teferi show up?
Yeah, why are there 2
I wanted to duress that. So what a jerk.
This hand's landless, and Hamilton cycled a land, and he has 2 very good 5-mana spells.
No, you're gonna say take the disallow?
No, I'm asking why Hamilton cycled that land.
I didn't want him to cycle the land.
Yeah.
Just, you had a Scarab God. I don't know, sometimes you got mana, you got to spend it. That's what.
That's how
that goes.
You can't take it with you.
It's the kind of thing I think, in a control mirror where patience will be more rewarded. I'd want to hang on to the land and then just you have a cast down that might answer Raja's play. If you play something you can't cast down, you can always cycle the land then.
Yes.
But Michael Hamilton knows about a control deck. Remember, this is the player who won an Open with Dovenbon.
Yes. The Dovenbon
I have never done that.
Correct.
I don't know. He may be the only player on the tour to win an Open with Dovenbon.
That would not surprise me in the least.
Once again, two-headed giant.
Now, you know, when I said that, I looked at the list. There's no. I wanted to. It is still legal.
I played against a Dovenbon on Magic Online this week, and I was so upset.
What? Did you win?
Yeah.
Okay.
Teferi was the take with the Doomfall. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. There was an argument for going for the disallow because Hamilton's not doing anything for a minute. You leave him with a very good 5 no matter what your decision is.
You know when you were talking about that land that got cycled? Michael drew Glimmer of Genius this turn, the previous turn.
Yikes.
It's okay. He drew the Drowned Catacomb, so we're fine.
We're fine-ish. That would have been a 5-drop this turn.
All right, here's Glimmer. This is going to go Glimmer into Scarab God. The question for me is, has Raja found a Contempt?
Well, Raja, at some point very soon, needs to actually find something proactive.
He needs to do something?
Yeah.
This hand from Raja, of all sideboard cards, which it is, I think it's just all sideboard cards? Duress Doomfall, Duress Laybear.
Yeah.
If he had this exact same hand and put one Arguel's Bloodfast in it, this hand is insane, and I never beat it with control.
Correct.
We are short the Arguel's Bloodfast, and so it's just kind of whatever. Michael's not going to make Scarab God. I do like the patience there. There's no need.
Yeah, hold up that disallow.
There's nothing in the graveyard. It's just a 5/5. We don't need to go anywhere. We can cycle our land. Eventually we'll draw a Gear Hulk. Then we'll Gear Hulk back that Glimmer. And we'll just hang out.
You don't got to sell me on doing nothing.
This is exactly what I want to do when I play Magic, is what
Yeah.
Michael's doing right now.
And when it comes to Black-White versus Esper, not just this matchup, just kind of historically the way these color pairs line up, blue decks generate card advantage in ways that Black-White decks generally are unable to do so. Black-White deck needs to land Planeswalkers, and like this one getting a trial, it doesn't generate card advantage, it's just a singular threat. Whereas the Esper deck, over time, you duress them, but then they pick up draw spells, they pull a little bit ahead and a little bit further ahead, and they just inch you out over time.
Raja did earn a disallow with that Gideon. Michael decided it was worth his counter. The only thing better, Ryan, than casting your spells is not casting them. Just looking at them.
Yeah, someday.
I was wondering whether Michael was actually going to... I was wondering whether he was going to disallow the Gideon, because I thought he could beat it otherwise. And now we'll see. This is, I believe, Profane Procession from Raja.
Yep.
What's likely a better card. It's going to, and this is a great bait by Raja. It gets syncopated, and now he makes Arguel's Bloodfast. Against Esper, this is the most important card.
Yeah, you want to answer this one straight away.
And it's... You know, and it probably would have worked out like this anyway. If Michael had held the disallow and let Gideon resolve, he would have disallowed the Profane Procession. And now we're in a mid-range fight. Michael taps out for Scarab God. Raja draws an extra card off the Bloodfast. The game has changed.
Yes.
Liliana Death's Majesty picked up for Raja.
Liliana's a powerful card, but it does not quite hang with the Scarab God.
Yeah, Angel of Sanctions picked up after he drew another one off Arguel's Bloodfast.
It's actually kind of a liability to be plussing your Liliana when there's a Scarab God on the battlefield. Your opponent just grabs whatever's good.
Raja would like to have found, well, a cast out, I suppose. But if once Michael untaps, there's going to be a duress up. Though Scarab God is worse in control mirrors than a Teferi, it is much better otherwise. It wins quicker.
Yes.
Which to me is a negative, but I guess it's good here.
It's positive in a lot of spots. When your opponent's deck has more live top decks and stuff that can be kind of game-breaking, the Scarab God is going to be better.
Oh yeah, I don't like that it ends the game.
Sure.
I would like it. What if instead of dealing them 5 when I hit you with Scarab God, I gained 5? The end
of the game is by far my favorite part.
The end of the game is when my opponent decides he doesn't want to play anymore. I hope it never happens. Here's Liliana. Raja's going to make a zombie, mills over a land.
All right, didn't hit any creatures.
No creatures. It was land and forsake the worldly.
Yeah.
No problem. Fatal Push takes care of the blocker, however. But Liliana, just like Karn, she is also loyal. She's at 6. Scarab God will move down to 1. Land from Michael. I think he has a Glint Sleeve Siphoner that he's boarded in. He'll pass. Cast down, negate, maybe not the Siphoner. We'll have to wait and see if Raja can overpower Scarab God. He'll draw an extra card again.
Raja does have an Angel of Sanctions in hand, but that is a dicey one to commit here.
Karn was the draw from Raja. Now there is a negate. Raja has Angel Sanctions, Karn, cast down Aether Hub as his 4 cards. He's going to go for a Karn. That should earn a negate. He plays the land first. He already saw 1 syncopate, caught himself there and said, "Yeah, if you're going to syncopate this, I want you to pay more."
Yeah, the range here is Supreme Will. That's the 3rd extra mana source.
Here's Karn. I expect that will earn a negate.
I would be surprised if it didn't.
I wouldn't negate it. I'd just be like, what? I mean, I would really want to not negate it.
Yeah, you'd want to. Hamilton's been very aggressive with his counter spells throughout the match, which is why I would expect him to make this play.
This is when I play counter control decks. My biggest weakness is not countering things. I just let everything resolve. Being like, no, I don't want to spend my negate. What if you play something better? And they're like, what's the something better? And I'm like, I don't know. I might need it. I like this card. I want to give it away.
You kind of just have to break cards down into tiers of efficacy and keep that updated throughout the game. Karn's got to be at worst tier 2 in this deck, probably tier 1.
Well, it's not going to draw a tier 1 card on its first try.
True. That would take 2 full turns.
Yeah. Maybe I can remove it before that happens. Token, Michael spends a cast down on it. Trying to clean up the board here is Michael. Scarab God should do it.
It'll allow him to take care of that Liliana and really start going to work on Raja's life total.
Yeah, I mean, there's still the Bloodfast, and Michael might be able to overpower it, but that's always difficult.
Having a creature helps a lot in that front.
I will say, I don't ever have a 5/5 when I play blue-white, and this seems...
Yeah.
Okay, it's doing things, all right? You don't... He's gotten rid of... He might get rid of a Planeswalker without using a cast down, which... All right, fair, that's good. Creatures, I guess.
I feel like your soapbox of how the Scarab God isn't the best way to play control.
Look, I just want to play removal, and I guess you can sell me that Scarab God is functional removal for Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
So if you're saying like Scarab God's a weird Dreadbore, I'm like, all right, I guess. I hate the part where it starts attacking their life total. That's just garbage.
What if Dreadbore won the game? I'm off it.
Well, I don't need Dreadbore to win the game. I already...
Why would I win the game?
He attacked Raja to 7. He's ignoring Liliana. I don't understand this. No, actually...
So the first attack takes them off of -3ing the Liliana, so maybe that was the primary motivation. And possibly Hamilton just has 1 or 2 more removal spells.
Yeah.
Also, the Liliana plussing is eventually is going to hit a creature, right? There's like a non-zero number of creatures in this deck. Actually,
I do want to point out a really nice play. By putting Raja down to 7, he's actually playing the card advantage game here. At 7, you don't have any... You're taking away the Bloodfast activations, which might actually be more important than taking care of the Liliana, as odd as that sounds.
Yeah, Bloodfast that draws 9 cards is a lot better than Bloodfast that draws 4 or 5 cards.
Right, 5 extra damage means 3 fewer Bloodfast activations, so that was a 3-for-1.
Ooh, and speaking of value, 2 creatures off the top of Liliana this turn.
Is that 8 mana for Michael?
It sure looks like it.
You know, this 7 points of life now is...
pretty easy.
Yeah, Scarab God has another ability that hasn't come up yet. And, ooh. Here's Angel of Sanctions.
Wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see 2 Scarab God activations in response. That's the floor for what Hamilton can do.
I like the combo of if you reanimate both Knight of Malice and Knight of Glory, they see each other.
Yeah,
and
they're
both
5/4s.
Though there is a bit, they're mortal enemies, right? By flavor.
Is the Scarab God, does Scarab God just make them both black?
Oh no.
Makes cards black. Right?
Oh, Knight of Glory. You're evil now.
So you have a 5/4 and a 4/4?
No, Angel of Sanctions is around, so it actually is still a 5/4. But I didn't like the flavor if you have them both in play, because they're supposed to be mortal enemies. They shouldn't be helping each other fight.
It's a weird team.
They
It's
should
been going on in Magic for some time. Since Kamigawa block was the first time that standard we saw Hand of Honor and
Hand of Cruelty
just in the same deck.
They should, like, if they're both in play under your control, they should each get -1/-0.
That's a lot of rules text. I get what you're going for.
Okay. It's part for, and this should be the penalty for party disunity.
Get the flavor judge in on this one. We're going to dock you some Sheldon Menery points.
Here is History of Benalia from Raja. That's another knight to go with the first 2 knights. And Ryan, Cerebot didn't get activated there.
He's gotta
I think
have an
that's because
answer,
he's got to, that's because he's going to cast it down instead. On the Angel of Sanctions. And this is the nicest one because what card do you think he's going to target with Scarab God now?
I think it might be Angel of Sanctions.
Ooh, I like that play. I don't think he can embalm it if it's not there.
I believe that is true. Also, your opponent is Angel of Sanctions you.
Well, hold on.
That removes his blocker.
Ryan, he's dead.
I believe so. You get a flyer. You get to activate the Scarab God twice in the upkeep. That's 3 zombies.
So right, it's a 4-power flyer. If you take the flyer, you win.
Yes.
It's a 4-power flyer. Upkeep, you activate it 2 more times. So then you have 3 zombies. Drain him for 3, hit him for 4, shake his hand.
Yep. Yeah, there's no flying blockers here. This is a misstep for Hamilton.
He's still in a great spot, but I do think he missed an on-board lethal here.
It would be surprising to see him lose. Giving your opponent more time, though, is it's going to make it more likely.
I'm not sure what Raja would draw to fix this. In a similar vein, I feel like if you remove Scarab God, its minions should all die.
Yeah, like that was the way that
Liches work that way.
Chainer, Dementia Master.
Yeah.
When Chainer died, you exiled all horrors. Was it horrors? Whatever Nightmare is.
Yeah, and some horror, and depending on your fantasy, sometimes vampires in some mythoses can raise zombies from the dead, and if you kill the vampire, the zombies die.
Yeah.
Or there'd be ghouls. They're actually generally called ghouls, not zombies. It's the right idea.
Okay. Looks like Raja did have a removal spell for the flyer.
Okay.
So it would not have been able to come across for lethal this turn.
Michael will grab the other knight, however. All right, so both knights in play. Both knights being pumped. That History of Benalia is a white permanent, so that still works. And both can attack. 5 power in, and that is lethal anyway. Raja takes the 5, and we are done. Michael Hamilton, 2-0. He is your winner. He improves to 12-3. Does he need to win another, or is he locked for top 8? I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I guess a couple 5-power attackers plus